On today's episode, Columbo is working on the case of the missing TV remote. Unfortunately, Columbo then had to work on the case of finding the right pair of batteries. But then Columbo had to work on the case of the unpaid cable bill. Columbo later received a call from the office about a case regarding a user named ModernGurlz who made a video regarding an actress named Aquafina. Columbo listens in as the video is about to begin.
Hollywood needs to hire real voice actors again. Back in the 1950s, it was uncommon for more than one animated film to make it to theaters per year.
That depends on where the films were released. If we are just looking at films released in America alone, then you would certainly have a point. But if we are including animation films outside of America, then you would find at least few other animated films released in the same year as each other.
But nowadays, at least a dozen are guaranteed to hit the big screen. This is partly because the technological advances of the 21st century have made the animation process less arduous, allowing more studios to flourish. But another part of the equation is the growing popularity of animated films in general, with the genre bringing in billions of dollars at the box office annually.
I would also add that more studios since the 1950s have also popped up and have contributed to animation with their own animated films, such as Sony Animation, Illumination, DreamWorks, Aardman Animations, Warner Brothers, and so on. Also, I would like to add that not every animated film released by any studio makes a lot of money. Disney's Wish, for example, was a box office bomb, and DreamWorks' Ruby Gillman was a bomb as well.
I've recently been doing a good amount of traveling, and as is custom, I spent those 50+ hours taking full advantage of the in-flight entertainment. So imagine my surprise when not one, not two, not three, but 4 of the animated films I wound up watching featured the same aggravating character with the exact same aggravating voice, Aquafina. For those unfamiliar, Aquafina first got her start back in the early 2010s by making satirical rap songs online, and she used that virality to break into the entertainment industry. This began in 2016 with a part in Neighbors 2, as well as a small voice role in Storks, her first foray into animation. Initially, Aquafina was primarily known for her distinctive voice, awkward behavior, and crude humor, making her a popular choice in comedies, where she often played sassy and self-deprecating characters. 2019's The Farewell was a short-lived shift towards more dramatic and serious roles, but it was quickly followed up by more comedies where she played the same wisecracking goofball as always. This typecasting was even present in animation, as seen with her character in 2019's Angry Birds 2, Courtney.
Keep that last part of Aquafina having done a dramatic movie role and the phrase typecasting in mind for later.
Some of these A-list celebrities definitely brought something special to their performances. I couldn't imagine anyone but James Woods as Hades, but others are nondescript enough that I have to wonder, were they actually the best choice for that role? Especially if some of their singing parts were done by an actual voice actor, because at that point, why not hire the voice actor to begin with? Sure, Jay Baruchel was a great choice for Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon, but that sort of dweeby sound could have been pulled off by tons of professional voice actors. Now, this isn't to say that people who first rose to prominence for their on-screen performances can't be successful voice actors. Case in point, Mark Hamill, Robin Williams, Seth Green, and Alan Tudyk. Not only have they given some great individual performances, but they've even voiced multiple characters on the same project. And if you can do that and not have anyone notice, then you're not going to hear any complaints from me. For certain celebrities like Sandra Bullock, Brad Pitt, Michelle Pfeiffer, or John Cusack, their voices might sound familiar to the average person, but you're not immediately going to recognize them as soon as they open their mouths, which I actually think is the ideal scenario when it comes to celebrity voice castings, as it makes them more of a blank canvas, allowing them to play a wider variety of animated characters.
While I agree that professional voice actors can do several kinds of voices that lend themselves to do multiple kinds of characters, however, you admitted that Jay Baruchel, despite not being a professional voice actor himself, did a good job voicing the character he voiced. If someone performed a voiceover role well despite not being a professional voice actor, then why should voice acting roles just be for professional voice actors only? Another point I want to bring up is that the thing about voice acting is that it is not just about being able to do all kinds of voices. It is also about being able to act. Voice acting the part of a character requires you being able to act out certain scenes that require certain emotions or skills, whether it is expressing joy or sorrow or yelling or grunting. These skills, whether you are acting them out in front of a camera or behind a mic, they nonetheless require these acting skills and more.
Aquafina's voice, on the other hand, which is gravelly and loud with the occasional emphasis on the wrong syllable, reads as obnoxious and juvenile, at least to me, and I'm always left thinking of a tween chomping on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich shouting into a headset while playing Fortnite.
I'm obnoxious!
Now, there's nothing wrong with that sort of voice, as long as it's appropriate for the situation, which unfortunately is rarely the case when Aquafina's concerned.
Oh, now he's doing a voice!
Take, for instance, 2021's Raya and the Last Dragon. If you watch the film, Sisu is a naive goofball, which isn't a bad direction to go in considering Raya's more serious personality. But because Aquafina is constantly cracking jokes and inserting pop culture references, instead of her inexperience coming across as charming, like Ariel, it feels more annoying, almost like she's being ignorant on purpose as a gag. It's the type of thing that wouldn't be an issue if it were a smaller role, but as one of the protagonists, it makes the film hard to watch because you can't identify with the character you're supposed to root for.
It's a ha, ooh, it's a hot. It's hot. It's really hot. Water. Look at my people arms and my people face. Look how close my butt is to my head.
Something about Aquafina's exaggerated delivery also winds up making Sisu feel too self-aware, like the character knows she's in a movie, so she's trying to ham things up for the audience, which conflicts with the overall tone of the film.
How Aquafina performs her roles is not simply down to how she acts out the character, but also the material presented from the writers and the direction given from the director. So even if her performances comes across as annoying, it would be a mistake to just put the blame for this solely on, if not mostly on, her or actors like her. Also, while I know you do mention the fact that she does improvise a lot of her lines, again I point to the direction given to her as a factor for how she performs her characters, let alone anyone who approves of all the dialogue for the characters in a film.
According to Disney, Aquafina did a good deal of improv that wound up making its way into the film, which I think negatively impacted the character. Sisu's a magical dragon, not a comedian from Queens, but that's how Aquafina decided to play her, and as a result, there's very little that differentiates Sisu from any of Aquafina's other characters.
But then I saw it wasn't you, it was her. But it wasn't in the mirror, except she had your voice. Ow!
Are you listening to me?
Yes.
You'd think the sort of obnoxious quality of her voice would have worked for Scuttle in 2023's Little Mermaid, but it doesn't. In the original film, even though Scuttle has absolutely no idea what he's talking about, he always pretends that he does, requiring his voice to have a sense of intelligence and confidence. He's irritating, but still likable. Aquafina's version of the character is more ditzy, at least when she's not squawking, making Ariel's trust in her more of a stretch. I get that the "it's a bird so its voice is annoying" thing was done on purpose, but it's just really unpleasant to listen to. Like some random kid holding their finger in your face screaming, "I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you."
Where is it said that birds in animated films have to have annoying voices, especially since there are plenty of bird or bird-like characters who do not have the voice quality or act the same way as Aquafina's character in the Little Mermaid remake.
Time to turn this baby on beast mode.
In 2022's Bad Guys, Aquafina shouts more sparingly, and while that succeeds in making her a bit easier to listen to, the hoarseness of her voice still doesn't work for the character. Miss Tarantula is supposed to be confident and mischievous, not sound like she's getting over a cold.
The quality or type of voice a character happens to have does not dictate their confidence or lack thereof. A character could sound raspy or have a deep voice or even have a lack of emotion to their voice, but can still come across as confident in what they are saying, provided they do not sound like they are unsure or confused.
You got me, oh great and powerful dumpling warrior.
In 2024's Kung Fu Panda 4, she continues to disappoint. Even though Zhen and Sisu are supposed to be pretty different, Aquafina plays them the same way, to the extent that they even make similar jokes. While you could place part of the blame on the writing, which is definitely not as strong as the original Kung Fu Panda trilogy, I wouldn't be surprised if some of Aquafina's improv made the final cut, meaning that once again, she's pushing her own personality onto the character, instead of letting the character's personality direct her performance. Regardless of their species, age, background, or importance to the story, all of Aquafina's characters have had one main shtick: sarcasm. Now that's by no means unheard of. Just look at Timon in The Lion King, the fairy godmother in Shrek, Kuzco in The Emperor's New Groove, or Nani in Lilo and Stitch. But those aren't their only personality traits. Those characters are unique, and as a result, their voices are unique. But nowadays, if an animated character is remotely snarky, they immediately bring in Aquafina, and because she only knows how to play herself, the character suffers as a result, only being remembered for their sass.
So you admit that the way the character is written could be a part of why certain characters like the ones played by Aquafina are written the same way. So why put so much spotlight on Aquafina for why her characters act the way that they do? And again, I point out the director and whoever approves the dialogue for the characters as other things to consider regarding acting performance and characterization. Finally, I want to bring back what you said about typecasting and Aquafina's dramatic role in the movie The Farewell. First, typecasting is when an actor becomes so strongly identified to specific character types that they are often identified as that kind of character. So studios will often hire that actor to play roles where they only play that specific kind of character. While this can still get someone work, it does limit them to only getting roles with that kind of character in mind and nothing outside of that. And while actors can and have gotten roles that go beyond what they have done beforehand, it is not always that easy. Studios are not always confident with allowing actors to play other kinds of characters, since to them it is rather risky. For example, casting directors were opposed to Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, considering he was mainly known for comedy roles, and then you have Jackie Chan, who is known for more comedic roles as well as playing the hero in films for a long time but has managed to get more serious roles. So Aquafina playing the same kind of character is just another example of typecasting actors to specific character types, and it is out of the actor's control at times to do anything about that. Now back to the Farewell movie you mentioned. You stated that this was a dramatic role that she has done outside of her usual comedy roles, and yet you say that she only knows how to quote-unquote play herself, which contradicts your assessment of Aquafina's acting capabilities. I will leave a link to a scene from the film which I believe you will find further proves that Aquafina is capable of other characters. I also want to note that there are other actors that seem like a one-trick pony that are capable of other kinds of roles. Just look at comedian Adam Sandler in films such as Reign Over Me and Uncut Gems, or comedian Melissa McCarthy in the movie Can You Ever Forgive Me? Again, these actors that seem to be only capable of one kind of character doing roles show that they can do more and succeed at it, just like Aquafina. Second, I want to note something about the character Zhen from Kung Fu Panda 4. While the character does have a snarky personality, there are moments where the character is shown to have other emotions, such as when Zhen tries to stop the character Po from fighting someone cause they did not want Po to get killed. The scene and the characters are played out more seriously, which again shows that Aquafina can act out other emotions.
Although Aquafina has been the focus of this video, she's far from the only celebrity securing voice roles for shallow reasons, with one of the most notable examples being Hollywood's worst Chris Pratt. Pratt began his stint of voice roles with 2014's The Lego Movie, where I actually think his voice worked since Emmett is a normal, boring dude with absolutely no unique interests. Following the success of the film, and the general push in Hollywood to make Pratt a household name with Jurassic World and Guardians of the Galaxy, he quickly became one of the most popular celebrity voice casts, even for films that he had no business being in. In 2020's Onward, 2023's The Super Mario Bros. Movie, and 2024's Garfield, Pratt continued to use his normal voice, which, as we said, is incredibly generic, making it a poor fit for the characters in question. Like, you're trying to tell me that Garfield, a notoriously lazy cat with a ravenous appetite, just sounds like some guy? I don't think so.
Characters that are lazy or who have large appetites can be portrayed with any kind of voice. Their personalities do not always dictate if they sound deep or have a higher pitch, or as you yourself said, they sound like some guy. Which, by the way, what does sounding like some guy even mean? It is a vague statement that unless you can explain, I among others won't know what it is you are talking about.
Although the animation industry seems to truly believe that celebrities are the reason these films have been bringing in the big bucks, I don't think it has anything to do with it. It's the story. That's what's important. Or at least that's what's important to me. Instead of spending millions of dollars on a middling performance from an A-list celebrity, I'd much prefer it if the studios took that money and hired someone who could actually bring the character to life. And while they're at it, they could pay their animators and writers better too. Because if I have to sit through Frozen 5 or Despicable Me 7, where half the cast is voiced by Aquafina, Chris Pratt, and James Corden, I'll have to go and shut down their computers myself.
So you want to give more money to animators, writers, and voice actors, but then say that if they make another sequel to some film with actors like Aquafina again, then you would shut down their computers? Which in doing so would halt production of these films, and thus the voice actors, animators, and writers you said you would give more money to would not get paid, since you basically stopped production cause you could not handle certain actors being in a film. Sounds rather counterproductive when you think about it. Anyways, for my final thoughts, I basically said what I needed to say. But if I had to suggest anything, is that you should keep your biases in mind, since you were pretty unfair at times against Aquafina, acting like she is a major issue for the films she is in when there is more to consider, and you should check your points over for any contradictions or anything you should elaborate, and that is about it. Oh, and just one more thing. Actually, I got nothing, I just wanted to say that. See you all later.